I stood in the doorway, my heart pounding in my chest. The words my parents had just said echoed in my mind, like a cruel, unrelenting chant. "We can't take care of you anymore. It's too much. You have to leave." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. How could they say this to me, after everything we'd been through together? "Why would you say that?" I stammered, my voice barely a whisper. "How am I supposed to live on my own? I can't even see." They looked at each other, their faces hardening. My mother spoke next, her words sharp, cold. "Living with 3 people is economically difficult. It's easier just being 2 of us. We want a better life, one without the constant worry. We need to live more comfortably." I felt my chest tighten. More comfortably? Did that mean they didn't care about me anymore? Did I mean so little to them that their comfort mattered more than my survival? "Please," I begged, my eyes filling with tears. "Don't interfere with our lives," my father said, his tone final. "You're old enough now. You need to figure it out for yourself." The words hit me like a slap. I couldn't think. I couldn't breathe. This wasn't supposed to happen. They were supposed to care for me, to protect me. But now they were pushing me away. How had things gone so wrong? I stood there, unable to move, unable to speak. My mind raced for solutions, but nothing made sense. "Why don't you contact your grandparents?" my mother suggested, her voice distant. "Maybe they can arrange a place for you to stay." I couldn't understand it. Why didn't they care? It had been like this for as long as I could remember. I had been born blind, and my parents had always been there, taking care of me. But now, everything was changing. The world I had known was shattering around me. That was how I ended up at my grandparents' house. It wasn't an easy decision to make, but I had no choice. I needed a place to stay, and they were the only ones who could help. 12 years passed since that day. Life had moved on. I had graduated from school, found a job, and even started my own company. I was proud of what I had achieved. I had worked hard, pushing through the challenges my blindness created. I was a success. At least I thought I was. And then, one day, out of the blue, they showed up. My parents standing at my doorstep, their faces full of expectations. "We heard you started your own company," my mother said, her voice trembling with something I couldn't quite place. "You're a CEO now. We hope you can take care of us too." I froze. Take care of them? The people who had abandoned me all those years ago? The people who had tossed me aside like a burden when I was just a child? "What are you talking about?" I demanded, my voice sharp. "I don't owe you anything. We're not family anymore. You can't just show up and expect me to help you." My parents were stunned, their mouths open in shock. "What's wrong with you?" my father finally sputtered. "How can you say that? We're your parents." "No," I said, shaking my head. "You're not my parents. Not anymore." My mother's eyes filled with tears, but I couldn't bring myself to feel sorry for her. They had chosen their comfort over me when I needed them most. They had sent me away without a second thought. "I'm not asking for your help," I continued, my voice steady. "You made your choice. You don't get to change that now." They left, their faces twisted with anger and hurt, but I felt nothing. The door closed behind them with a loud click, and for the first time in years, I felt free. But even as the door shut, a part of me felt hollow. Could I really cut them out of my life completely? Could I leave behind the people who were once my whole world? I tried not to think about it, to push the feelings away, but they lingered, like a shadow that wouldn't leave me alone. I had my own life to focus on now, my company, my friends, my future. But deep down, there was a gnawing emptiness, a question that I couldn't answer. Margaret, my name echoed in my thoughts. I was 24 now, attending a public junior high school, still trying to make sense of the world around me. I was visually impaired, blind, to be precise, but I never let it define me. Not when I had my parents' love and support. Not when they were there to guide me through every challenge, every obstacle. But that was before they turned their backs on me. I had always felt their love, especially when I was younger. Despite my blindness, they never treated me like I was any different from other children. They helped me learn, supported me, and encouraged me to follow my dreams. I had grown up believing that nothing was impossible. But now, everything had changed. The pain of their abandonment still stung, but I refused to let it break me. I had learned to adapt, to live independently. I had found my own way, thanks to the foundation they had given me. But now, without them in my life, I felt lost. My thoughts spiraled, and I couldn't stop them. Memories of the past came flooding back, of my parents' voices, their smiles, the way they held me when I cried. The warmth of their love. But that warmth was gone now. All that remained was the cold emptiness. I didn't know where to turn. My friends were supportive, but they had their own lives to live. And even if they helped me, it wouldn't be the same. It wouldn't be the love I had once known. The love that had made everything bearable. But my grandparents weren't the answer either. When I had asked them for help, they had refused. "We can't take you in," they had said. "We're too old. We've done our part. You need to figure this out on your own." I had begged them, pleaded with them. "Please don't leave me alone," I had cried. "I can't survive without help." But their answer had been the same. Cold, unyielding. "We've done enough. It's time for you to stand on your own." And so I was left with nothing. No family, no support. Just the haunting question that lingered in my mind. Why? Why did this happen? I asked aloud, but there was no answer. No one to provide the comfort I desperately needed. I had always been independent, always tried to do everything on my own. But now, I realized how much I had depended on others, how much I had relied on my parents, even though they had never fully understood what it was like to be me. I had tried to prove to them, to everyone, that I didn't need help. But in the silence of my empty apartment, I couldn't ignore the truth anymore. I was lost. I was alone. And the pain of that loneliness was more than I could bear. It was then that I knew, if I was going to survive, I would have to find a way to live for myself. No more looking back. No more expecting others to save me. I stood up from the chair where I had been sitting for hours, staring out the window. The night was dark, the city lights flickering in the distance. I had a choice to make, and I wasn't going to let fear or doubt control me. I would find a way forward, even if it meant doing it alone. The journey ahead wouldn't be easy, but one thing was certain. This time, I wouldn't let anyone define who I was. Not my parents, not my grandparents, not anyone. I would define myself. I couldn't think. I couldn't breathe. This wasn't supposed to happen. They were supposed to care for me, to protect me. But now they were pushing me away. How had things gone so wrong? I felt the walls close in, the reality of the situation sinking in. I was standing there, in the home I had always known, and it suddenly felt foreign, cold. How was I supposed to live without their support, without their love? "Why don't you contact your grandparents?" My father's voice cut through my thoughts like a blade. "Maybe they can help you. Find somewhere else to live." And just like that, the decision was made for me. Without a second thought, I left. I moved to my grandparents' house, a place that should have felt comforting, but now seemed so distant, so strange. 12 years passed. I built a life for myself, despite the challenges. I learned to navigate the world with my blindness, developing my own routines, relying on my own strength. It was hard at first, but I was determined to succeed. I even started my own company, something I had never thought possible back then. Then, one morning, the doorbell rang. I opened the door, and there they were, my parents. Standing on my doorstep, looking different, older. Their faces were full of expectation. "Margaret," my father began, his voice hesitant, "we've been thinking about things. You've done so well for yourself, and now you're a CEO. We hope you can take care of us now." I stared at them in disbelief. Take care of them? After everything they had said to me, everything they had put me through, they were now asking me for help? "What are you saying?" I finally managed to ask, my voice trembling with a mix of anger and confusion. "We're not family anymore. There's no reason for me to take care of you." My parents looked at me, shock and hurt in their eyes. "Is that how you speak to your parents?" my mother asked, her voice cracking. I could see the pain in their faces, but it didn't change how I felt. I couldn't simply forgive them. Not after everything they had done. But then, something deep inside me stirred. I wasn't the same person I had been when I was a child. I had fought for my independence, for my strength. I wasn't going to let them back into my life so easily. But even as I held firm, something gnawed at me. The bond we once shared was gone. It wasn't just the years that had passed. It was the way they had abandoned me, without a second thought, without a hint of regret. And now, here they were, asking for my help. Days turned into weeks, and the weight of my parents' visit lingered in the air like a thick fog. I couldn't escape it. I couldn't stop thinking about it. How could they have expected me to take care of them? After everything they had said to me, after everything they had done? But I wasn't the only one struggling. My grandmother had been there for me, taking me in when my parents had thrown me out. She had given me a safe space, a place to heal. But now, even she was beginning to show signs of strain. "Please," I begged one evening, sitting at the kitchen table. "Don't turn me away. I have nowhere else to go." She sighed, her wrinkled hands trembling as she poured me a cup of tea. "Margaret, we've tried to help you, but it's hard for us, too. We're old, and we're tired. We've done all we can." "But I can't survive on my own," I protested, my voice cracking. "Please, I'll help out. I'll do whatever I can." Her eyes softened for a moment, but then the hardness returned. "It's not about what you can or can't do. It's about what we can do. And right now, we can't do this anymore." I felt the words like a punch to the stomach. "So you're abandoning me too?" She didn't respond. Instead, she just looked at me, the weight of the decision hanging between us. That night, as I lay in bed, I couldn't hold back the tears. I had lost my parents, and now I was losing my grandparents too. What was I supposed to do? How could I keep going when the people I had trusted the most were turning their backs on me? The next morning, I woke up with a decision made. I couldn't stay here, in a house that felt more like a prison than a home. I had to leave. I had to find my own way, even if it meant doing it alone. I packed my things quietly, not wanting to wake my grandparents. I didn't want to burden them any longer. I took one last look around the small room, where I had spent so many years, and then walked out the door. But as I stepped into the cold morning air, I felt a sense of freedom. It was terrifying, yes, but it was also liberating. I was no longer depending on anyone else. I had no choice but to rely on myself. The days that followed were filled with a strange mix of emotions. There was fear, yes, but also determination. I was finally free to live life on my terms, to make my own decisions. No one was going to tell me what I could or couldn't do anymore. But the loneliness was overwhelming. I couldn't deny it. As I walked down the street, trying to find my way in this unfamiliar world, I realized just how alone I truly was. I had no one to turn to, no one to lean on. I was forced to face my greatest fear, being truly alone. I found a small apartment in the city, a tiny place that I could afford with the money I had saved from my company. It wasn't much, but it was mine. It was a place where I could rebuild my life, a place where I could start fresh. But even in the quiet of my new home, I couldn't escape the pain of what had happened. My parents were still out there, and I couldn't shake the feeling that they were waiting for me to come back, waiting for me to forgive them. But how could I? How could I forget the way they had treated me? How could I forget the years of rejection, the cold words that still echoed in my mind? It wasn't until I received a letter from my father that I began to reconsider. "Margaret," the letter began, "we know we hurt you, and we're sorry. We were wrong to ask you for help, but we've realized that we've lost so much. Please, if there's any chance, we want to make things right." I stared at the letter, my fingers trembling as I held it in my hands. It had been so long since I had heard from them, so long since I had even considered the possibility of reconciliation. But the questions still remained. Could I forgive them? Could I let go of the anger, the hurt, the sense of betrayal that had shaped my life for so many years? I didn't know. But I knew one thing for certain. This was just the beginning of a long journey. A journey of healing, of forgiveness, and of discovering who I truly was, without the weight of the past holding me back. And no matter what happened next, I was ready to face it, alone or not.